Hey guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here recommending books for your favorite tropes. I've done this a couple times where I went on my Instagram and asked you guys for your favorite tropes and what you are dying for recommendations for. So here I am. I did film about 10 minutes and realized I didn't turn my mic on, so I'm about to do this all over again. You guys are seeing this for the first time though, and before I get started, I do want to thank the sponsor of this video. Basmo is the sponsor, and they are a reading app that I've talked about before on my channel. I think that they are really great when you really want to focus on your reading. I get distracted very easily when I read because of my phone, because I'm thinking about Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and Twitter and everything, and I get notifications, and then I think about something and I'm like, I have to check this and this and this, and I just get super distracted. And my reading time is precious. I'm a busy person, and so Basmo has a feature where my favorite feature of the app is your reading time, where you can set a reading session and it starts timing and it keeps track of all your reading sessions of the books you read. So you pick the book you're reading. I never have a problem finding the book that I'm currently reading, and I click start reading. So I usually set 20 to 30 minutes where I can't touch my phone until I've read that long, and so once I'm done I can click stop and immediately enter my thoughts as I read the book, which is so helpful because if you watch my channel, you know I forget a lot about what I read. I always forget character names, and if 2 weeks have gone by, I completely forget a lot of the plot, and so it's so helpful when I go to sit down to do my wrap-ups or write reviews to look into the app and see what I was thinking when I was currently reading that book, and it's just really helpful for me to understand like what my emotions were when I was reading, what I was thinking about, and why I gave it the rating I did. I also love that you can schedule reading time in this app, which is really fun because I will sit down before bed and get on my phone, and before I know it, it's like 10:30 and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really have to go to sleep. So I set a time that I want to be reminded to read from Basmo, and I typically is like 9 or 9:30, so that I can definitely know, okay, put the phone down, it is time to read. So it really helps keep me accountable for my reading time. They also have really fun statistics you can look at, so you can see how many books you've read, how many books you need to read, how much time you've spent reading in the app. So I really enjoy that. I think a lot of us on BookTube enjoy our statistics when it comes to our reading. I just think Basmo is just really great to keep track of what you're reading, what you think of what you're reading, and remind you that you need to focus on reading when you really need to. So I need help being held accountable for reading, and Basmo's great to do that. So make sure you check out Basmo if it sounds interesting to you. I will leave a link down below to the app. I just think it's so fun that everything is there in one place. It is just something that you can go to and keep track of everything yourself, and I really appreciate that. So check the link down below if you're interested, and thank you so much to them for sponsoring this video. Okay, so I got through about 4 books when I realized my mic wasn't on. So let me double check. Is it on? Yes. Is the light on? Yes. Okay. We're good. We're good to go. It is my biggest fear that I will film an entire video and forget to turn that on since I got my mic, but it's fine. So the first trope someone wanted is a book with pets. I have 2 puppies. I love pets, and so I love book with pets, and I'm throwing it back with this one. I read this like 3 or 4 years ago, and that is The Fox and the Hound by R.S. Gray. This one, our heroine is kind of a hot mess. She is a real estate agent now, and she has a really hard time finding clients, and she adopts this giant dog that she really cannot keep control of, and so she ends up falling for the vet of this dog that she meets, and he's really, I feel like he's really stoic and standoffish, and she ends up like, I think he might live by her. Like I said, it's been years since I read this book, but I know for sure she goes to like an obedience training class, and he's the one doing it, and he's like, oh my god, like it's this girl again with her giant dog. And I remember clearly the dog just like taking him out. It's so funny. I think R.S. Gray wrote some really amazing rom-coms when I was reading her like 4 years ago. I haven't picked up her books recently because I wasn't enjoying them. I felt they were kind of getting redundant, but she has some gems in her backlog, and this is one of them. It was so good. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I really love this, and the dog and the vet. Give me more dogs and romances. I have a couple more on here that do have pets in them. I just love dogs and romances, especially when we have a vet character. I know Christina C. Jones wrote, I think it was I Think I Might Love You. He's a vet too, and like she, I think, found a cat or something and took it to him. Didn't realize he was the vet because they'd already had a really bad meet cute before, and then she ends up having to volunteer there, and it's great. I love vet romances. If you have any of those, let me know your recommendations down below. Then someone asked asked for an outdoorsy or mountain man romance, and for this one I'm recommending Haven by Rebecca Weatherspoon. He lives in the mountains alone with his dog, and I love that he has a dog. And our heroine is actually running from a serial killer in the beginning. She's camping with her brother. The serial killer kills off her brother and is chasing her through the woods. He sees them, kills the guy, and saves her. And so she actually ends up going back to her normal life and really finds it hard to adjust and like move on from what happened. And so she ends up visiting him, and they start a relationship and kind of help each other cope with what happened and give each other what they need. And so I thought it was a really fun romance. I really enjoyed it, and he is definitely a mountain man. He like lives alone in the mountains in a cabin. I love this one, and I really need to continue on with the series. Someone also asked for a vacation romance, and for this one, this book fills a lot of tropes. So someone did ask for an age gap, older woman, younger man, plus size. So I'm recommending 40 Love by Olivia Dade. This one, our heroine is, I think, 40. And I think it's like her 40th birthday she's there for. So I know she's there for her 40th, for a birthday. And it starts off with her in the ocean. She's rocking her bikini, and a huge wave comes in and takes her top off. And she is freaking out because like there's kids on the beach, and she's like, I need coverage. And so our hero is the one on the beach to help her. He is very young. He's in his 20s. He's an ex-tennis player because he got injured. He is the tennis trainer, coach person on the resort, I think, or wherever she's staying. And so she's like, oh, thank you. And he's like really into her, and she is like, no, you're way too young for me. Your priorities are all different. Like, this can't happen. He's like, I'm into you. Like, this can happen. And her best friend ends up getting her tennis lessons with him for her birthday, and so she has to spend more time with him, and then he tries to like woo her. And I remember there being a time where I think she was on her period, and he even like gets her stuff to try to make her feel better, and it was so cute. And so I thought this was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It all took place on vacation, and she's like, no, I have to go back to the real world. This would never work. I think this was just a lot of fun, and I would recommend it. Someone else asked for a paranormal romance, and this one I'm so excited to talk about. It is Four Psychos by Christy Cunning. I don't remember the author's name. I think that's the author's name, but that is a pen name, and that's the same as St. Abby, who wrote the Mind F series, which is one of my favorites. She wrote this one, Four Psychos, and it is a reverse harem paranormal ghost romance. She is a ghost. She's been a ghost around these four guys for 5 years. They haven't been able to see her, and they are like these like soul slayer, demon slayer things, and I can never describe fantasy paranormal things. And so they are also entering this competition where they're trying to like win to be able to get into hell, I think, and like talk to like the devil or something. I don't remember what this whole competition like clearly revolved around. It's a series, so like this competition's not over yet. We just got one scene, and so I love the competition aspect of it. And something happens where like someone is trying to kill our four guys, and our heroine is able to like manifest herself into being a physical, tangible being and save them. And then they can finally see her, and they're like, what the heck? Why are you here? Who are you? What are you? And it's so much fun. I will say there is not a lot of payoff in the romance in the first one because it is a series and she is a ghost, but it's really great. I really love this. I loved how they all have this interesting dynamic with one another because they're all really bonded and connected, but she's kind of throwing a wrench into everything. It's amazing. You need to read it. Then we have a forbidden romance, and I'm also throwing this back because I remembered reading this and I was like, why haven't I talked about this? And that is Until You're Mine by Cindy Madsen, I believe is the author's name. This one is a fighter romance. I love fighter romances, and I used to read a lot of them, and I really want to read more. And he had a really great career, but then something happened. His mom got cancer, and so he stopped, and now he's back, so he has to get back into training. So he decides to go with this gym, and she's working at the gym for the summer because she's an artist, but she is back at the gym to help out her family. Her brothers are coaches and her dad is, and so they are coaching him to be better at fighting. So she is completely off limits, but they have an undeniable attraction to one another. I remember listening to this audiobook, I'm pretty sure in one day on my drive somewhere, like I was going on a long car ride, and I just listened to the entire thing, and I really enjoyed it. So I definitely recommend this if you like that forbidden aspect, because she's like the off-limits daughter, but he is training with the brothers and the dad and fighting, and I really, really enjoy this one. Then someone asked for a bodyguard romance, and I'm going to recommend Mr. Bodyguard by Lauren Rowe. This one is later in the series, but it's one of the first ones that I've read in the series, so you can read them out of order. And this one is just so fun because our hero is someone who falls hard and fast all the time. Like, he's not afraid of love, and I love that. And so he got this job of bodyguarding this pop star, and his family is like you know, you're gonna fall in love with her. And he's like, no, I'm not, it's gonna be fine. And it's so funny because he's trying to like keep his distance, but she just is really friendly with him and really likes him and like texts him and asks him to come places, and so they become really good friends. And he obviously falls like head over heels for her, and it's so fun. And he's trying not to because he told his family, he's like, it's not gonna happen, so he's really trying to push it away, but he ends up falling for her, and I thought it was just really sweet. And he is her bodyguard, so he has to go along everywhere with her, and she's a pop star, so this one's fun. Then we have Upper Class Man with a Working Woman, and I'm assuming this is for a historical romance. And so for this one, I am recommending The Viscount Made Me Do It by Diana Quincy. I did give this one 3.5 stars. I will say all the books I recommend, nothing is below 3.5 stars, and if I gave it 3.5 stars, I did round up to 4. For all these books that I recommend. Not all of them are 5-star reads. That'd be impossible to even do recommendation videos because I don't read enough 5 stars to do that. But this one, Our Hero's the Viscount, and there are rumors going around that he brutally murdered his entire family because he was the only one to survive and he didn't even wake up when it happened, and so people thought like he did it because he was in the house when it happened. And so he is now, it's like he's still trying to figure out what happened to his family. And there's a bone setter. That is our heroine. She is working class. She is a bone setter, which means like she puts bones back into places and helps like people heal from that. And so he had an old war wound where his shoulder and his elbow, I believe, are dislocated, and they don't believe in bone setters really, and that's kind of society at the time. And so the doctors think she's like a fraud, and he sees that she has something that belonged to his mother the night she died. And so he's trying to get closer to her, so he uses an excuse saying like, oh, I want you to like help my arm. She ends up healing him, and he is trying to get closer to her to figure out what happened to his parents, and they fall in love. It's really great. I really enjoyed it. He also has to deal with the fact that I think his uncle is actually like a doctor and is way against like her profession, and so he's kind of going against his uncle while he's trying to do that. I enjoyed this one. I didn't love it as much as the first book. I had issues with our hero's character a little bit, but I think it was a really fun historical, really unique, especially I'd never read with a bone setter before, but I think that if the premise sounds great, you should give it a try. Then we have Dark Like Penelope Douglas, and I feel like you mean like her Corrupt series, and I am gonna recommend Run Posey Run by Kate C. Wells. This one he is like a psychopath. He doesn't really feel emotion for people, and he does what he wants, and he's in the mafia. And I feel like this has a great romance because there's a misunderstanding in the beginning, and they were dating, and she dates like all these mafia men before. She's been in bad relationships, and there's a misunderstanding, and he's like appalled that she would do something like that and literally kicks her out of the house. And so she is like, it's not like I didn't betray you, and she's like, but I know like you literally were on the verge of murdering me because you were so mad at me. And so she decides to run away, and he realizes he was wrong and wants her back. And so I thought this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed how they had to really communicate with each other about who they are as people and their expectations of each other and their pasts, because before they were living together and dating, they didn't talk. They were just like there just to meet each other's needs, and that was it. And now they really have to figure out this relationship and if it can work or not. And he has to understand falling for someone when he hasn't really felt that way about anybody before, because he just does what he wants. And so I thought this was really fun and really unique with that kind of hero, especially how it started off. And I think it's definitely unique like Penelope Douglas's books are. So I think if you like her books, you probably would enjoy this one. Someone also asked for I Want to Kill You, Enemies to Lovers. I've talked about this book all the time, but I'm gonna recommend it again, and that is Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. For this one, they literally try to kill each other, and it's so good. They're from rival mafia, so they literally are enemies, but they have to get married. It's an arranged marriage, and I know a lot of people ask for arranged marriages as well. So this one, they have to get married for a specific reason, and she literally almost kills him on her wedding day, purposefully, and it was hilarious, and I laughed out loud. And then there are times where they like try to kill each other, but like to the brink where they know they're not going to kill each other, if that makes sense. They like almost kill each other on purpose many times because they just cannot stand each other. And then of course that means that there's a lot of tension between them, and Lisa playing with each other and then kind of falling for each other. This was so good. I really enjoyed book 2 as well, and I'm excited to read book 3. You just have to read Sophie Lark. Someone asked for Friends to Lovers, and I'm going to recommend Maybe This Time by Christina C. Jones, because this is literally like 20-year friendship to lovers. They both were in relationships before. He actually got married, and I believe he had a kid, and they haven't really seen each other that way. I mean, like, he admits that he's always kind of had a thing for her. She never saw him that way. Oh no, she'd never been married, sorry. She was okay never getting married. She was okay never having kids. She was like, it's fine, like, I'm fulfilled in every other way in my life. Like, I don't need to get married. And she wakes up in Vegas married to him at the beginning of the book, and it's so great. And she like sees him, you know, for the first time, and she's like, oh, maybe I am attracted to this. And so it's a lot of fun. She kind of reevaluates what she wants out of life, what she needs, and he is like, I really want to give this a shot. And she's like, I don't know. And it's so fun. I really like how it is such an established relationship. They were friends for 20 years and they are in their late 30s, and I love having older characters. So this one was a lot of fun. It's short too, so pick this up if you want Friends to Lovers. Someone asked for Found Family, and I'm going to do The Duke Heist by Erica Ridley. This one is so found family because all of our characters were adopted by this guy, and they all have their own little quirks and their own kind of like role in the family. And our heroine is a great thief, and so she is told, well, like nominated by the family to go steal a painting from this duke that their adoptive father was forced to give him, or like it was kind of stolen from him to this duke, and their adoptive father has passed away, and so they really want this back. And so she goes to do it and kind of kidnaps the duke in the process, and the duke finds a family in them too, which was my favorite part of this book. And so it was really sweet. It is definitely more slow, so I know a lot of people don't like this because the romance takes forever to build up, but I just love this for the found family aspect. The romance wasn't even my favorite part of it. It was the family, all their little quirks in their roles, and like one of them makes sounds that come from different places. One of them is a great at disguises, and one of them has animals, and it's just like fabulous. I love it for the family, and so if you need something for family, read The Duke Heist. Then we have Brother's Best Friend, and this one's an oldie one too that I haven't talked about in a long time, and that is Playing for Keeps by Kendall Ryan. I always get this mixed up because it's Kennedy Ryan. It's not her writing, it's Kendall Ryan. This is a hockey romance, and our heroine is the sister of a hockey player, and she's really into his best friend who's also a hockey player, and the best friend like kind of likes her too, but he's like, no, it's my best friend's sister, like I can't. And I think something happened like at a party, and like they both, I think he freaks out more and they have to hide it from the brother, and it's so much fun. It's pretty short. This is a whole series, but I've only read the first one. I listened to the audiobook. I really enjoyed it. If you like the hockey romance, I just love hockey romances. I love hockey players. I had to read more sports romances, but this one was really fun, and I definitely recommend it for the Brother's Best Friend trope. Next is Older Woman, Younger Man, and I'm gonna go with The Scandal of It All by Sophie Jordan. This is actually also a stepson's best friend romance, but because it's historical, she's not that much older than her stepson. Her husband passed away a while ago. She's got a little girl, and she wants an affair. She wants to have a lover because like she can in society now, and so the guy is her stepson's best friend, and he's like 6 years younger than her. It's not even that much. Like she had a bigger age gap with her husband than she does with this guy, but she is older, and so like it's super taboo, and she's like, oh my gosh, this can't happen, but he's like, it's gonna happen, and like kind of woos her and shows her that they have got a lot of chemistry. She's got to try to deal with the stigma from society if her stepson's gonna find out. I thought this was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I think that it's realistic in the fact that women have a lot more stigma when they're the older one, because like it's like 6 years, like come on. But because she was the older one and she had that kind of relationship with him, as in like it's her stepson who's his best friend, people are like, oh my gosh. But like 50-year-olds can be with 18-year-olds, but like a 35-year-old can't be with a 29-year-old. That's what life society is like even today. So this was fun. I liked it. Then someone asked for a romance with kids, and I'm gonna recommend Let Me Love You by Alexandria House, I think is the author of this one, and this is, it's also a hate to love. She works for a jeweler and is told to go to this guy's house. He's a rapper. She has a pretty young child, and he has a teenager, and so she wants to do what's best for her child. A lot of her decisions are surrounding her child, and so she has to go like deliver jewelry to this guy, and he's like got a girl in bed, and she is just like completely appalled by him. She's like, you're just a player, this is awful. He's very intrigued by her, and so they end up having a romance, and their kids do play a part of it, and I think it was a lot of fun having them both have children, especially the different ages, especially his daughter when that came into play. I enjoyed this. I do think also I forget which one it is. It's either the second or third one in the series. She has a son who's a basketball player, like a professional basketball player, and falls in love with one of his teammates. So that is a single parent trope, but like the kid isn't like a kid, he's a grown adult. But I enjoy this one for the single parent aspect. Then we have fake dating, and this one I gave 3.5 stars, but I know a lot of people loved it way more than I did, and that's Neon Gods by Katie Roberts. Katie Roberts. I didn't know this was fake dating. Persephone is basically like being married off to Zeus, and she's like, heck no, that's not gonna happen. And so she ends up running away, running over the river, and pretty much like falling into the arms of Hades. And she didn't even know Hades was like a real person. And she asks him to fake be in a physical relationship with her so that Zeus doesn't want her anymore. So that is this romance. I will say the romance was my favorite part. I like loved Hades. I loved how sweet their romance was and how just like head over heels he fell for her. The rest of the plot fell really short for me. I didn't really get this whole like, oh my gosh, like Zeus is gonna kill me kind of thing until the end. So I feel like the plot was kind of lacking for me, but the romance was like everything. So if I was just basing this on the romance, it would be 5 stars. I was obsessed. But as a whole book, I was a little disappointed by that background, so that's why I gave it 3.5 and rounded up to 4 on Goodreads. But if you like that kind of fake dating romance, where it's got to get a little physical because they have to show that like Hades has her, read this one. Then Age Gap, which I've already talked about a bunch, but this one I'm gonna do To Be Alone With You by Jodie Slaughter because he is older and she's already tried making the moves on him once and he rejected her because she was too young. Now they're older, it's a quarantine romance and they have to quarantine together, and it's like when COVID starts, and he is finally like, well, you know, like I am attracted to you now. I feel like you're definitely mature now, and this age gap like isn't as bad as it was before, because before she was younger and he was just like, no, like our lives aren't at that point where like I can see this like being a thing. But now it's like she also was like, you've already rejected me once, like it's gonna, like I can't do this. But they are kind of stuck together, that's what it's called, To Be Alone With You, and kind of fall for each other, and I really like this. It was a lot of fun. It's a novella, it's short, but I liked that kind of dynamic where she's already tried once and was rejected, and now it's their kind of second chance now that she's a little bit older so that he's comfortable with their age gap. Then someone said Angsty, so I'm gonna recommend Inked in Lies by Gianna Darling. This was so angsty for me. Oh my gosh, it's also an age gap. She is 6 and he's 18 in the beginning of the book, and her brother's also 18, so it's also brother's best friend romance. But she is in a bad home life, and so she ends up being kind of adopted into his family because they recently moved in next door to her. And then we jump a bunch of time until she is 25, I think, and it is their romance, and it's so good. I think she's like 23, 24. He is in the motorcycle club, and she ends up trying to help the club out by figuring out who their enemy is and like trying to take them down. And Nova really doesn't want to be with her because he thinks she can do so much better than him, but it's always been him for her. It's so angsty, so good. I cried like twice within 100 pages of this book, so pick it up. Then we have an epistolary romance, and I'm gonna recommend Let's Get Textual by Tegan Hunter. This one is epistolary because it is texting. They meet because there's a wrong number. I think one of them thought it was like their brother because the brother got a new number, and so he was like, hey, like let's like meet up or something, and she's like, oh okay, like they were like a different time than what they were gonna meet up, and then they realize like this isn't my brother, like who is this? And then they start texting, and it's really sweet. I really liked how they were nervous to meet each other, and there's a baby goat in here, so that was really adorable as well. This was just so cute and fun, and I really enjoyed it, and I really need to read more from Tegan Hunter. But they fell for each other through texting, which I thought was a really fun concept for a book, and it's like basically a modern epistolary romance, so I enjoy this one. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and stop there. I hope that you found some new recommendations. I tried to do books that I don't really talk too much about, mix in with some that I always talk about, but I think that if you are looking for a specific trope, you hopefully found it here. Let me know if there are any other recommendations you have for any of these tropes or what your thoughts are on these books. I'd love to hear, and thank you so much to Basmo for sponsoring this video. Make sure that you check them out if you want a great app to help you get back on track with reading, stay on track, track your thoughts and emotions while reading, remind you to read. Check out the link down below if you are interested at all in checking out their app, and thanks again to them for sponsoring this video. And that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.